So what is all the flap between the Eastern European countries over immigration policies and Western European countries? And the answer is the Iron Curtain. The Iron Curtain, which stood up for many, many years from the 1960s all the way until the end of the 1980s, caused the development of the two different groups of countries. And so the West, let me give you a quote here from Zoltán Kovács. He's spokesman for Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban. He says, "We especially do not like it when people who have never lived in Hungary try to give us lectures on how we should cope with our problems. Calling us racists or xenophobes is the cheapest argument. It's used just to dodge the issues," end quote. So he's figured this one out too, because right now the European Union seems just really bent on forcing member states to take their share, quote unquote, of migrants. And so the European Commission has proposed reforms to various EU asylum rules, which would see enormous financial penalties imposed on members who are refusing to take in what it deems to be a sufficient number of people seeking asylum, even if it means placing these states at severe financial disadvantage. And the EU Commission is planning sanctions of an incredible $290,000 for every migrant that EU member states refuse to receive. Now, the states that this is going to affect here are countries such as Hungary, Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and even Austria. Remember, Austria is closing its borders to the migrants, or in the process of doing so. It's not hard to figure out who the penalty is getting aimed at right now. Austria has been putting up checkpoints at the top of the Brenner Pass between Austria and Italy. Now, the Brenner Pass is rather famous because not only is it a major pass through which many historic people have passed. I think Hannibal did it at one time. I can't remember. Don't quote me on that. But also Hitler and Mussolini used to have their respective railroad trains go to the top of the Brenner Pass, and they would meet there. "I'll meet you halfway, Benito." "Okay, mein Führer, I'll see you there." And that's what they would do. They had a number of frequent meetings at the top of Brenner Pass, so that's why it's famous. But now the Austrians want to have a checkpoint on that. The core difference in attitudes is the development of the countries in the West, which really bought into all of the multicultural run-on since World War II, and the Eastern European countries, which did not. And so now you've slammed these two groups together, and very much like we have going on here, you have our own central government, our federal government, trying to smash things down on the states by redefining things like we discussed earlier in the program. And the question is whether the states have the energy and the wherewithal to be able to fight back in the midst of all of this. Remember what I said in the segment 4 of the program about confronted with imminent failure, socialists never give up. Venezuela is under tense situation right now as the police have been blocking an anti-president march. There's no effort to try to peel yourself out of your situation and say, this didn't work. No, we just circle the wagons and try to keep everything tight together. So that's a real important lesson. To me, this is just outstanding, especially the life of Margot Honegger, that real die-hard socialists, dyed-in-the-wool Marxist socialists / progressives, never admit failure, never admit the wreckage, just want to do it all over again. And I'm not sure why or how, but that's ideology over reality. Of course, we should probably do something on the Brexit coming up shortly here on the program, which is scheduled to take place in June. When you get into these situations,